Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. The international break is done. It is over. All eyes now back on the Premier League. Arsenal returning to action, of course, on Saturday with that trip to Bournemouth. We will round up all of the final parts of the international break last night. A few Arsenal players in action. Of course, we're going to talk about Gabriel Martinelli and Brazil and what Mikel Arteta could do this weekend for Bournemouth if Gabriel Martinelli is not available. Lots of you have been getting in touch and giving me your thoughts ahead of that game. So I'll share what you've been saying, have a little bit of discussion on that. We've got to, of course, talk about Jonas Eidevall, who has left Arsenal. Sod's law. That happened just as I was basically uploading yesterday's video, so I didn't get the chance to talk about it then, but I will talk about it now. The Arsenal women got a huge game tonight, of course, against Valerenga in the Champions League as well. So there's plenty for us to get stuck into, but I thought we'd start with Gabriel Martinelli and the discussion about what Mikel Arteta should potentially do. He's definitely got a decision to make when it comes to Gabriel Martinelli this weekend. Not just Martinelli, potentially a decision to make on a few players, certainly in attack when it comes to Arsenal. We still don't know yet, of course, if Bukayo Saka will be okay to feature. Right, last night, Brazil finished their international break with a comfortable 4-0 win against Peru. Gabriel played all 90 minutes of that game at centre-back and came through it fine. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see a picture of Gabriel Martinelli there watching on from the touchline. Now, he was listed amongst the substitutes, Gabriel Martinelli, but sort of trying to work out what's gone on there, I don't think he was actually sort of on the bench with a chance of coming on, if you see what I mean. He was listed amongst the substitutes, but I don't think there was ever a chance he was going to feature. There's a little quote here from the Brazilian Federation. It says, striker Gabriel Martinelli is out of the match on Tuesday. He has an edema in his right calf and he is not yet fully recovered. As a result, the medical department has decided to preserve him for the match in Brasilia. Even so, he will watch the match from the bench. So that's why there's been a bit of confusion today. People looking at the fact he's on the substitutes bench, but I think that was it. He was listed on there, but he was never had a chance of playing. The decision was taken that they weren't going to risk him. And there you can also see a picture of him flying back to London as scheduled with Gabriel, with Paqueta and with Pereira as well from Fulham. So the London-based Brazilian players all coming back together on a private jet after the game. They'll be arriving at London Colney today, and Arsenal medical staff will finally be able to get right there with Gabriel Martinelli and find out exactly what is going on. So Mikel's definitely going to have a decision to make on Martinelli, 100%. Does he risk him if he's fine? And certainly the conversations that I've had, Arsenal don't believe there's anything serious with Gabriel Martinelli. They're not expecting him to return home and suddenly be like, oh my God, this is, you're going to be out for weeks or something like that. So they were quite comfortable with him staying with Brazil and then coming back as planned with Gabriel after the game. So there's no panic stations from Arsenal, but they're certainly going to have to assess him and work out whether it's worth risking him for this game against Bournemouth. Arsenal have got some big games coming up next week. They've got the Champions League, of course, in midweek, and then they've got Liverpool the weekend as well. So you don't want to take any risks on a player who's just beginning to find his top form again. So what will Mikel Arteta do? I asked that question yesterday. Lots of you were getting in touch. So here's a lot of what you've been saying about whether if Martinelli's fit or if Saka's fit or if both of them miss out, what should Mikel do? This is what some of you guys have been saying at the top there. It says if Saka and Martinelli can't start against Bournemouth, would this be a good opportunity for Ethan Nwaneri? Have Trossard and Jesus on the wings with Kai in the middle and Nwaneri in centre mid. He's looked great every time he's played so far. Why not give him a proper go in the first team from the start? I mean, as I've said every time when it comes to Nwaneri, there isn't a match now that I would be concerned if I turned up and I saw Nwaneri in the starting lineup. I think he could handle it. I think he could cope with it. I think he'd look fine. And I think he could make a big impact. We've seen that in his substitute experiences from a time. So, if they can't start, then if we do turn up at Bournemouth on Saturday, Nwaneri's there, then I think it's a perfectly good shout. And I think he'd make a good impact on there. Sam says Sterling and Jesus should be left wing and right wing. Keep Trossard and Havertz combination in place, which has been working really well. We don't need more changes in the midst of a spate of injury-enforced ones. Then we have Ethan to come off the bench and impact it as well. See, that's the one thing that I'd have slight reserve my judgment about Nwaneri starting is if other players are out, as we expected, certainly one of Martinelli and Saka or potentially both of them. I don't think I'd want to split up the Trossard Havertz sort of central area because that's been working so well in the absence of Martin Odegaard that if you then split that up as well, I'd maybe be a little bit concerned about that. So that's why I would be sort of leaning, I think, towards having Trossard left, Jesus right, and Sterling left, Jesus right, Havertz up top, and then I'd keep Trossard behind with Declan Rice. Mr. Kingdom says, "Hi Charles, I think when we are playing teams further down the table, we need to start Sterling. The more he plays competitive games, the better he will be." And that's from Jonesy from Felbridge. Nick says, if Saka and Martinelli are out, the solution is to change structure and keep two up front, Jesus and Kai, then Sterling to replace Jesus if he loses his fizz. Whether four in the middle will provide an opportunity for Ethan is really down to the gaffer, but I would. And Tukunga down there says, time for Sterling to prove his worth. He can get a run of games now. See, I agree. I didn't think Sterling played badly in that game before the international break. I know he got quite a lot of criticism for his performance in that game, which I thought was a little bit harsh. I didn't think he was fantastic by any means, but I thought he was perfectly fine on the left-hand side, and he did create some problems. He still is clearly trying to get up to speed as well, and I think he's going to need a couple of big moments to go for him to really get his confidence up and for him to really start to feel settled. But I still thought he did perfectly fine in that game against Southampton, and on another day he could have ended up with a goal or potentially an assist in that game. And so, yeah, if Saka and Martinelli are both out, I think you've got to play Sterling, but because that's why you've signed him. And if you're not going to play him when your two key wingers are out injured, then when are you ever going to play him? So I think you'd have to play Sterling if both of those are out for me. But I'd much rather see him on the left than on the right, I have to say, and that's why I play Jesus there out on the right. Let's moving on to Thomas Tuchel. I thought I'd brought another slide up there, but obviously I have misplaced it. Let me try and find it. Here we go. It was a slide from someone. I'll just move that out of the way. It was a slide from someone talking about Bukayo Saka, which I wanted to talk about. It's from the non-flying Iceman. He says, I'm against starting Saka. He needs a rest, and a tight hamstring is a warning. Heed it. Bournemouth aren't easy, but we should still be able to beat them with the players we have. Sterling, Jesus especially need to step up, and the tough run of games we aren't going to get the results required if they don't. Also, resting Saka means he's fresh for Anfield, which is arguably the toughest game after the City trip. It's not Anfield. The Liverpool game's at home. It's at the Emirates. It's Shakhtar at home, then Liverpool at home. So, but I agree. I'd still just take Anfield out of the way. I'd still, you're talking about resting Saka for Liverpool, which is still, a very good shout. In contrast, though, I would risk Martinelli if deemed fit, as he's finally played himself back into form, and I think he's sitting out the next game, disrupt the momentum. I mean, the Saka decision, like the Martinelli decision, is going to be a really interesting one because, as you say, it is a hamstring issue, or it appears that it's been a hamstring issue, and that is just one thing, especially when you're an explosive winger like Saka is, that you just don't really want to take a risk. You've got to be absolutely confident if you're going to start Bukayo Saka this weekend. You've got to be absolutely confident that he's ready to start, and there is no danger that you're going to put him in the first or second sprint that he does, that his hamstring just twangs like that, and then suddenly you're looking at 4 weeks out for Bukayo Saka. So there are big decisions for Mikel Arteta to make. It's why he's paid the big bucks. It's why the medical staff have paid the big bucks. The messages they've got to send to Arteta and the coaching staff is that, yes, we are confident he can play. The medical staff relay that message to Arteta. I would suggest that he probably will start them, I have to say. So thank you, everyone, for getting in touch with your views about what you would do for the game. Thomas Tuchel is the New England manager. I'm just going to run through this very, very quickly, give my thoughts on it, because it's obviously big news over here in England, and it's big news for Arsenal as well, because it means that you're going to have Thomas Tuchel now in charge of Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice. My thoughts on the appointment, I think it's a perfectly fine appointment. I've never loved Thomas Tuchel, I have to say. Obviously, it's tough to argue about his record. You look at the silverware he's won. He's led Chelsea to the Champions League, done lots of great things, won lots of trophies in the countries that he's managed. It's just something about him that I've not absolutely looked at him for. He is elite, like a lot of people think he is. I don't know what that is, but it's still a very good appointment for England when you look around who was out there, who was available. Tuchel's probably the best of those who is readily available, and England have got out and got them. He's an improvement on Gareth Southgate. There's absolutely no doubt about that in my mind. Some of the reactions to the fact that he's German is just honestly ridiculous. The Daily Mail's back page today is just an absolute joke, saying it's a dark day for England. And then they cap up the word German, and it's just like, oh my God. I mean, what year are you living in? Seriously, it's ridiculous. Do you think they cared when Wiegman won the Euros with England? led the England women to the Euros a couple of years ago. Were they bothered about it then when they were plastering the celebrations all over the front and back pages? Of course they weren't. They didn't care that she was Dutch. They just cared that England had won. So if Tuchel leads England to the World Cup, I'm sure they're not going to care at all. So it's just a ridiculous thing to put on the back page. But aside from that, look, I think it's a decent appointment. For me, there's still some question marks in my mind about if Tuchel's as good as a lot of people say he is. But from a English point of view, I'm perfectly happy with that appointment, and I'm sure Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice are going to get quite a lot out of working with him during the international breaks. It doesn't start until January, of course. Mikel Merino and David Raya in action for Spain last night. Decent night for them. Good to see Merino get 63 minutes, I think it was. Got some good praise for his performance as well. 3-0 win for Spain against Serbia. Another clean sheet for David Raya. Elsewhere, as I said, Gabriel played all 90 minutes at centre-back for Brazil in their win against Peru. And Kivior played full game for Poland. It was 3-3 against Croatia. I think it was. Doesn't appear to be any injury issues with any of those players who were involved. And so that was it. Curtain down on the international break. Unfortunately, only for a month because we've got another one coming up very, very soon. But for now, we can focus on Arsenal. And there's a huge amount of games coming up in a short space of time and some really big ones as well. So it's a really key part of the season to focus on now, starting, of course, at Bournemouth on Saturday. As I said, I didn't get the chance to talk about Jonas Eidevall leaving Arsenal yesterday. The decision came, or the announcement came, just as I was literally uploading a video about to publish it. So my thoughts on it, no great surprise, obviously. I think it felt inevitable after the week Arsenal endured last week. The draw against Everton, the defeat in Munich, the defeat against Chelsea. It wasn't just about performances either. There was just a mood around the place that you felt it's going to be tough for Jonas to come back from this. The Arsenal putting an awful lot of effort into building up the women's team. They're playing them at the Emirates. They want all these, trying to shift lots and lots of tickets. And there was just the feeling that he had lost the majority of that fan base that Arsenal have worked so hard to try and build when it comes to the women's team. And it was going to be a long way back for him. So it's no great surprise that he went. Obviously, it was put down as a resignation. Whether it really was a resignation, I don't know. You will have to sort of come to your own conclusion on that. Edu says, we thank Jonas for his commitment to the club and achievements since joining us. We have great respect for the dedication and commitment he showed our women's team, recognise the role he's played in the growth and development of Arsenal women. Wish him all the best for the future. Our focus now will be turn the process of appointing a new head coach. In the meantime, supporting Renee as she takes interim charge of the team, starting with 2 important fixtures this week. So Renee Slegers is now the interim head coach. She'll be taking charge tonight in a game against Vålerenga, and there's a game at West Ham next at the weekend, and then there's the international break, which you think is probably going to be a good time for Arsenal to make an appointment. They're going to need to make a good appointment. You're already looking at this season and think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for Arsenal. They're already playing catch up, of course, in the WSL after such a poor and slow start to the season. So the new man probably going to come in not with much expectation in terms of what they need to achieve this season. And that might give them a little bit of time. I said new man, so it could easily be a woman, of course. New person come in, going to get their chance to really sort of settle in maybe without too much expectation on what the season will bring. Slegger speaking about it in the press conference yesterday at Colney said, I spoke to Jonas yesterday afternoon and was shocked by the news. I was very sad because he's been a good leader for the staff. I've worked with him in Sweden. He's worked really well. Very sad it's got to this point. Kim Little was there as well at the press conference. She said, we got made aware this morning in the team meeting before we went out to train. Like Renee said, it's a bit sad. Jonas has been our leader for the last 4 years and he's made the choice to step away just now. We have a huge amount of respect for him. Now, as a group of players, as part of the leadership group, we have to get the players together. Obviously, it's a big change, but we need to move forward and change our focus to the game against Vålerenga, of course, she's talking about there. And it just did feel inevitable. And I think Jonas, when you look at what he's done at Arsenal, there's been some good moments. There's been some silverware won, a couple of Conti Cups, but in the league and certainly in the Champions League, the disappointment of last season, disappointment of the result against Bayern Munich, it just feels he's not quite done it. Given the investment Arsenal put into the team, the players that he's got, doesn't feel like he quite got enough out of that team and the football wasn't good enough. And it feels like the right decision and the right time to make a change. In fact, in my opinion, it felt like the right time to make a change in the summer, but it feels like certainly now is definitely the right time. And it almost felt inevitable, I have to say. Right, moving on to some questions and comments now. Theo from Malta, by the looks of it, Maltese Gooner says, Great content. Thanks. Congrats on the 100k award. I listen to you every morning while shaving. Excellent. I can't imagine life before finding your channel. I'm sure you can, Theo. He said, my question, when our informed strikers came on at the end of the Southampton match, they played against tired opposition and ran circles around them with such a strong defence and great secondary attacking options. Why is this strategy not used more? Perhaps a lack of footballing knowledge on my part, but against lower table opposition, why not repeat the strategy more often and save legs and give minutes to get others in for? This is a good shout. I suppose there's just the big risk factor on it. Can you, every single time you turn to your bench, if things aren't going well with half an hour to go, can you guarantee that that bench, no matter who's on it, will have enough time to turn things round? I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Yes, they did against Southampton. I think it helped the fact that they've got the equaliser just before those subs came on as well. So they're already on level terms. But if you're having to do that week after week, game after game, turn into your bench to try and rescue things, then it's a bit of a risky strategy, I think. So you want to give your best players as much time on the pitch as possible to get the job done. Ideally, the best thing is to get them on the pitch from the start, win the game in 60 minutes, and then take them off and give the rest half an hour to try and play themselves into form, which is still a decent amount of time on the football pitch. So it's a good shout. I have to say it's an interesting one. I just think the whole risk factor involved is probably what stops people doing it more. Nostradamus 86 says, any idea of when Ben White will be back to full fitness? I don't. I have to say, London Colney on Friday 10 a.m. I think is Mikel Arteta's press conference, should get a little bit more from him. Then obviously Arsenal have given Ben White a lot of time to rest after the Manchester City game. The hope is that he'll be back for this weekend. Same with Timber. But we'll find out more a little bit, I'd imagine, on Friday when it comes to them. With Tomiyasu joining Zinchenko and Tierney on the sidelines. Again, I've seen the Tomiyasu rumours, the reports. I haven't had that confirmed yet, so there's nothing I can really add to it. I don't know if it's true or not. I've been trying to find out. I've just not had it confirmed. So I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't take that as absolute black and white that he is injured and he has aggravated that knee problem. He might well have done, but I haven't been able to confirm it. So with Tomiyasu joining Zinchenko and Tierney on the sidelines, it seems like Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Calafiori, Timber and Partey will be given different fullback duties over the coming months. Yeah, I'm sure they will. But I think when you look at Arsenal's fullback options, the fact they've had so many injuries in that area already this season, and they've still been coping with it absolutely fine, shows the strength of depth they have in that position. And it's such a key position as well, which is why I suppose we always laugh when suddenly we see Arteta being linked with another left back or another fullback. But I think modern day football, fullbacks are so important to how teams play that it's so crucial that you have plenty of good options in those areas. And when you look at Arsenal's squad right now, they absolutely do. And if Timber and White are fine after this international break, and if Tomiyasu hasn't picked up another setback, I mean, what an embarrassment of riches Mikel's got to call upon then. And that's before you even think about Kivior or Lewis Skelly, like you say, and even Thomas Partey, who we've seen play there, and I thought played there very well in that game against Southampton. Right, that's it from me, everyone, today. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, I do appreciate you. Want to get included in tomorrow's show, you know what to do. Your comment, your question, your opinion, anything Arsenal related, get down into the comments, leave it there, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Until then, have a very good Wednesday, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.